Welcome back to episode 15 of the Charged Up Show. In this episode, we had the privilege of speaking to Chris Merchant, one of the best quarterbacks that played in OUA football. Chris has a really interesting career timeline, and he is one of the few quarterbacks that led his team to back-to-back national championship appearances. We get to talk about his past career in winning the Heck Crichton Trophy, the highest award in OUA football, and his future of playing pro in Europe. Make sure to check out his impressive highlights on YouTube. And lastly, we are partners with Amazon, so if you ever want to buy anything on Amazon, make sure to do it through our link. Hope you enjoy. So how have you been doing? How's it like in Calgary right now with everything that's going on?
It's good. It's crazy, man. I mean, when all this hit, it was kind of like a surreal thing, and a couple weeks after that, I kind of got the message from Finland saying that they weren't going to be able to bring me over there, and with everything going on, they hope I could come next year and everything. So hoping that I'll be able to go over to Europe soon and play with another team maybe. But yeah, just trying to stay positive, and glad the weather's starting to get a little bit better slowly. But picked up a job just part time to try and get some funds in the pocket, and yeah,
Yeah,
That's
sounds
amazing.
good.
We'll definitely get into everything going on with Europe near the end, but yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with that.
One thing that is nice is the football season ended a while ago before Corona came in, which is nice. We had Garrick McFadden, who went to Acadia out in Nova Scotia.
Yep.
His episode just came out today, and they were hosting the hockey championship.
Right.
And it actually got canceled after the first two games of the championship were playing.
Yeah, I remember that because I actually flew to Nova Scotia for my sister's iron ring ceremony. She had just graduated from engineering at Dalhousie, and Western, my alma mater now, was playing, and they had beaten the number 2 seed like the day before or whatever, and it was kind of like they were upset city that year. They beat the number 1 seed in the OUA playoffs, and then went on, and we were like, oh, maybe they have a chance at winning the national championship, and then the tournament was canceled. So I remember that. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's a bummer. So kind of just at the start, it's kind of a loaded question, but just from the start, like how did you get into football? What was it growing like in Calgary playing football? What got you into it?
Yeah, my mom's from Denver, so I kind of grew up visiting cousins and stuff, and my uncle and my father took me to a Denver Broncos game when I was young, and just fell in love with the atmosphere, the physical aspect of the game. And so I started when I was about 8 years old, playing for club teams here in Calgary, which is the earliest you can play. Got seriously injured my first season, actually, so kind of thought that would be the end, but it kind of just drove me to want to play more. And in my second year, it was like Adam football, and I scored 26 touchdowns as a running back, just kind of had a knack for it, and kind of fell in love with the game, fell in love with the connections you make with people. And from there, I just kept playing, and I was a dual sport athlete with soccer and football. And by the time I was like 16, I had to make the choice between the two. At that point, I was just loving football a little bit more, and decided that it might lead to more opportunities through university, especially within Canada and the US, where my goals were. So decided to go with that, and haven't looked back since. It's been awesome.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, it's always interesting hearing like other football players, because me and Keith, we used to play football, and back in like the the Pee Wee days, you get thrown around everywhere, different positions, and watching the tape, like you're obviously a fast guy, right? Even I can imagine fast kid, right? So you mentioned when you're running back, is that like what you started out playing, and then you eventually went to quarterback, or?
Yeah, so I started as a running back. I was just kind of taller and a little bit faster than the rest of the kids, so they threw me at running back. I was this lanky kid, and it just kind of was agile because of soccer, had pretty good vision, and just ended up being pretty good at it. And then I went to a new club, played running back for a little bit, and our quarterback was a little undersized, and the offense just wasn't clicking. And I was throwing the ball with my dad before practice one day, and our coach came up and was like, "Do you want to play quarterback for us?" So that was when I was probably 12 years old. So ever since then, I've been playing quarterback. But I in between that, I played receiver. I kick a little bit as well because of soccer. So I've been all over the field. I mean,
Cool.
it's football's fun, man. You can just, as long as you're getting the ball and playing, it's a good time.
Yeah, just as a little bit of background, we should have got this before, but I'm Keith Agar. I don't have a big football background. I've been playing since I was about 7 years old for Cambridge Lions.
Oh yeah.
Cambridge Lions football, yeah, and so I'm in my grade 11 year, so just heading up, and then Nate's also been playing for quite a bit too, so nowhere near your level, but still got our toes in the water there, so it's pretty cool.
Hey man, the fact that you guys are in the sport and are enjoying it, hopefully, again, football is one of those sports that, especially in North America, opens up so many opportunities outside of sport, which has been super beneficial for me as well. The connections I've made, even at Western, I got to know the president of Western just because I was invited to an event and got to speak to him, and now that door is opened. And so beyond the sport, it's so cool what it does for you.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Now kind of just jumping back to where we were, but we read that you played in the NCAA. So did you get offers throughout high school there for that?
A little bit, yeah. So I 2 years into high school transferred to a boarding school in Ontario, which is how I ended up out east. And when I was out there, I was doing camps and circuits down in the U.S. for a few years. And so my goal had always been to play Ivy League in the Ivy League. And so I ended up going to a bunch of camps there. I ended up getting an early admission offer from Brown. And I was on my way to maybe a few other offers there. But I had also gone to the camp at the University of Buffalo. Played really well. Ended up having a great relationship with the coaches, and they offered me as well. And what I found out is that Ivy League is crazy expensive unless you can get financial aid. So I decided to go with the full ride scholarship instead. And it always been a dream of mine to play at the top Division I school. I mean, it's a Mid-American conference, so a little smaller, but you're still playing with some of the best athletes in the United States. So it was a really cool opportunity.
Something that you kind of touched on, that you had to move away. What was it like in Calgary? Obviously, no one thinks of Canada in general as a football place, especially out west. And what was that like playing Calgary? What made you decide you needed to move?
I mean, Calgary football is actually really, really good. They've got a great club system with a lot of great coaching, a really good high school system as well, especially the really good schools like there's three that come to my head right away: Notre Dame, Henry Wisewood, and St. Francis, who are all usually within probably, in my opinion, probably the top 10 programs in the country. If you could put them up against anyone and they do really well. I ended up going to a school that is a little more academically inclined, and they have a great rugby program, good basketball program. For some reason, the football program just never kind of took off, but it helped me kind of continue to learn and step into the player that I was. And I just decided that if I was to pursue the goals that I wanted to pursue, then I needed to go somewhere else that was maybe a little more inclined at football as well. So I decided to go to St. Andrews College just outside of Toronto for 2 years, which was awesome. Best experience of my life so far. So
yeah, something I was always interested in is because obviously you've moved a whole bunch of different places, and how was like the atmosphere or the dynamic of like playing in the States compared to Calgary, or playing in the Ontario area? Like was it like different at all, or was it fairly the same?
Absolutely. It really is. When people say it's like a religion, I mean, it's even crazier way down south. But even at Buffalo, it really, once you get to that level, it's a full-time job. You wake up, you go to your lift, you go to meetings after, then you go to class, and in between classes you have practice or more meetings or something like that. So it's basically you're just squeezing in classes and homework in between football, which is what you're basically there to do. So it was awesome for what I wanted to do, and I learned so much, not only about myself but about the game of football. And yeah, it really is a different atmosphere down there. I mean, there are programs up here in Canada that are starting to get that way. I mean, you've got the Westerns, the Lavals. I mean, Calgary, the University of Calgary winning the Vanier this year. I'm sure they're on their way to building an elite program that has had a ton of success over the last couple of years. So there are programs that are starting to get there, and you kind of live and breathe football at those schools as well. So I think it's just a matter of time, and I'm hoping that more schools will kind of hop on that train, and the coaching will continue to get better in Canada. So, but again, it is a different animal in the United States. It's just is what it is.
Yeah.
Now, if it's okay with you talking about this, but you played in the NCAA and D1 school. What made you want to come to Western to play and transfer over to Western? I believe it was 2016 the year you did that.
Yeah, so after my first full season at Buffalo, the school fired the entire coaching staff that had recruited me.
Oh wow!
Jeez.
So they cleared house, and they decided to bring in a staff from a Division III school, Wisconsin Whitewater. They at the time had like 106-6, like they had won 106 games and lost 6, and won a ton of national championships. They're a great staff, and they're still there to this day, and they've completely turned around the program. So all the respect in the world to them. But at the time, they had brought in a kid who was 6'7", 250 pounds, and ended up getting a shot in the NFL. And at the time, I decided to stay out that one extra year, try my best at winning the starting job. And I actually played really well during spring camp, and maybe personally thought that I had earned the right to maybe be in the top spot to be the starter that next year. But they called us in and said that you're all tied, and we want to continue the competition going into fall camp. And I just decided that I wanted to go somewhere where I knew I would play, and I just didn't want to be a backup for maybe the next 2 or maybe the rest of my career, if that's the way it happened, just because the kid that I thought that they were leaning towards, and that his name was Tyree Jackson, I thought they were going to go with him just because of maybe the way that they had treated him, and it kind of seemed that they were leaning towards him. So decided to transfer back up to Canada, and had a great career at Western. I have no regrets at all, obviously. It would have been nice to play in Division I and say that I did that, but again, I have no regrets about coming back up to Canada. It's good football, and I made a lot of good friends. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, what was that like coming back your first year? Like, I don't want to put it in this way, but did you find it easier to be more dominant at the U Sport level?
A little bit. I mean,
it's a hard subject.
And it's hard to say because, again, I never got to play in a game. I played 3 snaps when I was at Buffalo in my second year when I stepped into 1 game. So I really didn't get a taste of the competition. Like, obviously, it was a little faster down in the U.S., and it is a smaller field. So the game is different in terms of it's 4-down football. So it just changes a little bit naturally. But coming back up, I did notice that it was a tiny bit slower in terms of just how well prepared I was because of the training I had gotten. So I wouldn't say it was easy. Like, it definitely wasn't. I was challenged every day, and there are so many great players, especially in the OUA. I think the OUA is one of the best conferences in producing CFL caliber athletes. So it was definitely a challenge every day, but I was definitely prepared to come in and be successful. And I think that I showed that right from game 1. So.
Yeah, awesome.
And with your freshman year, how did that go? Would you be able to talk about your first year at Western and how that went?
Yeah, it was good. It was difficult at first. I stepped into a situation where I was competing with another kid who ended up being one of the coach's sons, and he's become one of my good friends today. And we competed, had a great competition, and I ended up edging him out a little bit at the end there. But he was a great competitor as well, and that's Stevenson Bones. So he's coaching at the University of Guelph. He has a love for the game of football, which I think is super special, and he continues to pass on his knowledge to the next generation as well. So that was difficult at first, and obviously whenever you're in a competition, it's just a matter of doing your best and hoping you come out on top. And from there, we ended up going we lost to Carleton in our second game, which was kind of an upset, I guess you would say. And then from then went undefeated, ended up losing in the Yates Cup after being up crazy amount, and that's a game I don't really like to talk about.
Yeah.
Obviously, in my opinion, if you play that game 100 more times, we'd win it 99 times. So we just got unlucky, and that's the way sports go sometimes. But yeah, it was a great first year. I learned a ton. That was a really talented team I played on too. So just looking back, every team I played on was different, and I have some really good memories of my first year at Western. So.
Yeah, and we've talked to a few other people throughout the podcast who've played in OUA football, and we've all discussed how Western's such a dominant team around here, and how not even at a university level, but even with junior level, like with the Cambridge Lions and the OPFL, this kind of area, like London is known for their sports and athletics.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, I think London, like Calgary, has done a great job of, with great coaching, being able to coach these kids from a young age and develop them. And that's why they have success, because Western, a lot of their recruits come from the local schools and the local clubs. And so I think that's a credit to just how good football is in London. I mean, there are surrounding areas as well, like Hamilton and Toronto, that have great football as well. But London being kind of a smaller town, it's pretty cool to see the success that they've had.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So what was like a day-to-day kind of day at Western? Was it like hard work? Like, is it hard to balance like workouts with your schooling, and like especially being a top caliber, like taking a lead for the team, right, as a quarterback? Was it hard to manage it all, or was there some ways that you coped to kind of help that?
Yeah, being a student athlete in general is difficult. I mean, it's, again, maybe a little bit less than Division I, but Western was, in my opinion, as close as you can get. We woke up, we had classes, and then at 3, you could maybe get a short workout in. This is in season, by the way. Off season is completely different
right.
at every school, but in season, as soon as your classes are over, you go to meetings. Meetings are from 3:30 until like 4:30, and then you get right onto the field from 4:30 till 6:30. You have practice. That's really high intensity, obviously, at the university level. You're, especially with the coaches at Western, you're go because we play such a high intensity, fast paced offense. So as soon as that's over, we have a team dinner, just so we're all staying in the same place. And then right after dinner, we have meetings for another few hours. And then as soon as meetings are over, you go home, you do what you can for homework. And it's really about time management. It's using the time that you have in order to stay ahead on your studies. And as long as you do that, you're fine. Everyone says as a student athlete, you can only pick 2 things, your sport or your school, or if you decide to sacrifice your school, you can't go out, something like that. There are ways. As long as you time manage and you do that, you can live a normal life and still enjoy and have fun and go out. So, again, my experience at Western was awesome, and I was able to have a ton of fun on top of getting a great education and playing high-level football. So,
yeah, sounds good.
I think it's time to hop in your second season. Do you think that tough loss obviously really helped you out for the second season? And having that loss and maybe the having to leave Buffalo and coming into your sophomore season? Do you think that really helped you find your groove? Because you clearly did in the second season.
Yeah. I mean, that summer was intense. There was guys on that team that really took it personally when we lost to Laurier in that Yates, especially the way that we did. I think guys completely revamped, and they took that summer more seriously than I've seen any team take a summer, especially the leaders like Jean-Gab Poulin, who's playing the CFL now, another linebacker, Phil. We had AT at running back, Cedric. All these guys worked their butts off, and we had a great O-line that worked hard all year as well. So it was just a credit to the work that we put in the off season to prepare us for that season. And then everybody kind of saw what we did during the season. It was all the work that was put in when people weren't watching. So I think that's why we were so successful, and that's why we became so close as a team, was because we knew how hard the guy next to us worked. So it was a special season. It's hard to just put into words how much work was put into winning that Vanier, and obviously to beat a great team like Laval made it even better.
Yeah, for sure. It's tough, especially from the past, definitely not to the caliber that you've played in, but from the other sports that I played, football is it's a special relationship you have with your teammates, and I mean you go through thick and thin with them, and I've played a championship season with Keith, right? We came up short, and it was devastating, right? Mm-hmm. But I guess players, you really have to bounce back from that, and it seemed like you did. And
absolutely, yeah. And like you said, it's a special sport because with other sports, you can kind of have one guy on the team who's a stud and can take over a game and win that game for someone. Like in hockey, you'll have a Connor McDavid or LeBron James in basketball, or things like that you can take over a game and probably win because of it. Whereas football, if you on offense has one person that's not doing their job, someone runs the wrong route, or an O-lineman misses an assignment, the play is not going to work. Yeah. So and you could lose a championship because of it. You fumble the ball or something like one play in football can make the difference between winning and losing. So I think that's why it's a different game than every other sport, and why I love it so much.
And especially the coaches from day one, especially from my experience, they preach the brotherhood. They want everyone to kind of be a family, because like you just said, that's how you win games, is cooperating with each other and being a unit kind of as one, right? So
yeah,
it's
you need to know the guy next to you has your back.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden you look over and you're like, I don't trust that guy, it's probably not going to go too well.
Yeah, exactly. I really want to get into the Vanier Cup. That's a huge deal. Would you be able to tell us about that whole experience, and especially going back to back, which is not a lot of people can say they've ever done that?
Yeah, it was definitely winning one, and I mean, I get to say I win one and I lost one, which I wish I could say I won two, but the fact that we beat Laval the first year and did it in a convincing manner, I think just solidified just how good of a season that was for us. It was a special week. You go in, the media's all hyped up, and it was funny. I go to the media conference, and one of the questions I ask is, I got pulled earlier that year in a game. It was the worst game of my career against McMaster. And the media, that was the only question I got asked, was how did it feel to get pulled and stuff like that. So the whole week that's kind of in my head. It's like, man, I got pulled, and that's the only thing they care about. And meanwhile, I'm in the national championship. So it's kind of funny. And I mean, it just proves that sometimes the media is just trying to get under your skin and try to get a reaction out of you. So, but other than that, it was a great week. Again, just bonding with your teammates. You're locked into a new level. You know how much is on the line. So, again, it's hard to describe in words what it was like. And then you come out and you just execute perfectly on game day. And it was just one of those perfect storybook endings. So that first Vanier was something that I'll never forget. You have these memories that you're like, oh, I'll never forget that, but kind of just lingers. Whereas I can remember almost every single play from that Vanier Cup that we won. Still to this day, without going back and watching the highlights or anything, I can just replay the game in my head. So
it's like the Super Bowl kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'm just weird because I got a weird memory like that, but
well, that's really cool.
Yeah. And then the second Vanier, obviously different story. Laval came out ready to go. They're a great team, great coach. Glenn Constantine's one of the best to ever do it. Obviously, with all the Vaniers they've won the last 10, 15 years. And they had a great quarterback with Hugo Richard. So they came out ready to go, and it's hard to say that they outplayed us, and we could complain about the reffing or whatever. But I thought it was a hard competitive game, and it came down to a couple plays, in my opinion. So, but another great experience to get to play at Laval in their home stadium for the Vanier Cup. That felt like a pro atmosphere with all those fans, and they were drunk too, to add on top of that, just because you can drink in the stadium. So it's again hard to describe. Just
an unreal experience.
Yeah, unreal, surreal. There's so many words to describe it.
Yeah, and I kind of got a two-parter for you here, which is something that I'm really interested in. What was the feeling? The first one is, what was the feeling playing in Hamilton? Obviously, like I'm sure you guys had a ton of Western supporters there, but not many people made the trip to Quebec versus going into Quebec the second year. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, either one was. We had great fan support at both. I mean, we definitely had better fan support, and our students were able to come to Hamilton, which was really cool. And it was, everyone says it was more of a London, it was more of a home game for us than it was for Laval. And maybe that was a little bit true, but there was a ton of Laval fans there too. So like whenever there was a bad play, like there would be noise in your ear, and it was still super cool in Hamilton. And then you go to Laval, where it is like 95% Laval fans. You're walking up to the stadium, and there's guys screaming at you in French and probably swearing at us. And again, it really was a pro atmosphere, at least in my opinion. And again, completely different experiences, but both something that I'll look back at with really fond memories, despite winning or losing.
Yeah, and then the other part is what's the feeling of finding out you're going to play Laval back-to-back years? I think it doesn't matter what sport you're playing. If you beat a team one year, you don't want to play them again necessarily the next year. Especially you said you handled them pretty good, and I watched that game. Like it wasn't necessarily close, and
yeah,
they have a reason to be even fired up more. Where you're kind of like, oh shit, we got to play these guys again.
Yeah, I mean, there was part of us that were like, damn, we have to go up against Matthew Betts, who's the best D lineman maybe to ever play in U Sports, and like things like that. That was like, okay, this is going to be difficult. But I think as a competitor, whenever you get an opportunity to play the best, you're more excited. And I think that was more the energy of our team that year. Was even though we had to play a great team, like you don't want to face somebody that's not going to give you their best, and really, like if you win a national championship that against a team that maybe doesn't deserve to be there, it's really not as special. Whereas Laval was the top of the top. Again, you look back at how many championships they've won in the last 10, 15 years. That is a team that you want to beat. And we were fortunate enough to do it the one year, and again, we had to play them the next, and they came ready to go. But I mean, a 1-1 split with one of the best teams to ever do it is not too bad in my opinion. So.
And you also won the MVP, the Ted Morris Memorial Trophy. That's awesome too. What was the feeling and reaction to that?
Yeah, it was kind of the cherry on top. I mean, you always look at these like Super Bowl MVPs if Brady wins, and you're always like, that would be pretty cool. It is nice to step up and get a little bit of recognition for a game that you played really well in. But it didn't top winning the Vanier, and it never will. Just an individual award in a team sport will never live up to the actual team award that you get.
And I also encourage any of the viewers to check out your highlights as well, because I was watching a bunch this morning, and I would consider you as like the Lamar Jackson of OUA football. Like, your playing style is so cool. How you're able to pass the ball insane lengths, and also you're not afraid to rush the ball too. We have some of your total passing yards was estimated about like 8,202, and total rushing yards was 1,494. Like, those are crazy numbers too. So another congratulations.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's definitely a good 4 years, as I said, and my stats might not be as gaudy as some of the other guys, but again, the only one that I really care about is my win-loss record, which as a starter, I was 39-3, and I mean, at the end of the day, that's what matters. You look at the individual stats in a team game, again, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day unless you're winning. So
yeah, of course. And kind of going into your play style a little bit. As a football player, I know everything happens so quick and it's so in the moment, and you don't even have time to really think during your plays and stuff. As a quarterback, I'd say it's pretty dangerous to put yourself like outside of the line, right? So how would you say your mindset of being more of a rusher is too as a quarterback?
That's just the competitor in me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win at the end of the day. And you'll go watch my film and you'll be like, oh, why would he take that hit? Why wouldn't he slide? Something like that. At the end of the day, I'm not playing football because I'm scared to get hurt. And I got injured this year in the biggest game of the year. I tried to play through it. It ended up being a really, really bad injury that I wasn't allowed to play through. I tried to talk the doctors to let me go back in, but they wouldn't. But that's just the kind of guy I am. At the end of the day, I'm going to lay my body on the line in order to put my team in the best position to win. Obviously, if I do get hurt, then that's part of the game I play. Football is a physical sport. And I'll tell that to any quarterback. If at the end of the day, you don't want to slide and you come back and you're like, Coach, I had to get the first down. 100%, I would agree with you. Because, again, football is a game of inches and a game of plays. That one play could make the difference between winning and losing. And, yes, I agree that you need to protect yourself in certain situations and prolong your career as much as possible. But football, you only get a few years to play it, so you may as well give it your all.
There's one video of you against Kingston, which was I watched it so many times, of you trucking like a linebacker running at you, which was so cool, especially as a quarterback to see.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah.
Awesome. And even just so now at the end of your career at Western, you earned the I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but the Heck Carrington Trophy.
Heck Crichton, yeah.
Heck Crichton Trophy. That's the best, highest level achievement that I guess any football player could ever get. Like, that's huge. How could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it was another special award to end my career at Western. It's for people that are watching and don't know what the Heck Crichton is. It's basically the equivalent to the Heisman in Canada. So there's been a lot of great players to go before me. Again, their stats were probably a lot better than mine. But I think what was special about winning it this year is that a lot of people counted us as Western. At the beginning of the year, if you go back and you look at kind of the preseason thoughts and what was going to happen, like a lot of teams maybe thought we were going to go maybe 4-4, be really competing for a playoff spot. And we had a really young team, like a young O-line, new running back, very young receivers, like all over the board on offense. So even though my stats might not have been as crazy as some of the other years, like even last year with Sinagra breaking the record and stuff like that, I think it was just a special season because we were able to, again, win so many close games, but came out on top at the end of the day. So I think that's what made that award a little bit more special. Again, I won't look at the season and be like, oh, I didn't have the stats to actually win that award. It was, well, we went undefeated. We maybe shouldn't have, but we still did it. And at the end of the day, did what we need to do.
And it's clear to see your passion and heart for the sport, which I'm sure contributed to your achievement there as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I could go all day talking about football, and I'm coaching a little bit right now and doing whatever I can to continue the fire within me until I get to play again. And I know I will get that opportunity. It's just a matter of when and where, and I'll be ready for it. So.
For sure. Yeah, no, I applaud you. Like, you seem like a really wise and humble guy, and, perfect traits for a football player. But I kind of want to dig into what made you think to go to Europe.
In terms of playing professionally, I was supposed to be I had signed with the Montreal Alouettes last year, went to their training camp, ended up getting released and sent back for my final year of school, and I thought that maybe I would get re-signed, but maybe it was due to my injury, the foot injury I sustained. They had a new GM this year. There's a variety of factors. I don't know what goes into signing guys and what doesn't. So no team decided to sign me this year. So again, it's another chip on my shoulder, but I'm not going to look back and be salty about it. I'm just going to move on and go somewhere that wants to play me and believes in me.
I got one quick too before we jump into Europe, and this is even a backtrack from that. What was the experience like winning the award, the MVP? And I saw that Western video of you and a couple teammates had to hop on the flight to that banquet. Can you run us through that experience? Because it seemed pretty awesome, and how you found out you won.
Yeah, it's cool. That's a pretty fun banquet to be at, and the award ceremony. And that was my third year going, because the 2 years before that, it's the Vanier ceremony. So since we were in the game, our whole team got to go. So that was the third year I got to experience it. Laval always did a great job of putting on that whole ceremony. And I was on crutches at the time because I was still recovering from my foot injury. So it was a little difficult to get around. But whenever you're around like the best athletes in the country or the best football players in the country, it's always cool because you get to just talk about their experiences and how much they love the game as well. So really cool to step on that stage and be awarded that in front of all of them, and just get to share that experience with them as well.
How was the rehab on your foot there? Was it lengthy, or what kind of helped you there?
Yeah, it's very lengthy.
Yeah.
So basically, I guess in my opinion, it's basically the equivalent of tearing my ACL in my foot. So basically, I tore all the ligaments in my foot. It's called a Liz Frank injury. So I had surgery on that in November, and I'm all good now, but it was about a 5-month recovery, heavy rehab, and just doing whatever, because it's the bottom of your kinetic chain, being where all your weight is and everything. It just takes a long time. So it is what it is. And I'm just, again, ready to get back on the field now and forget about it.
For sure, yeah.
And I think if we're all good to get into Europe now, 'cause I think that's the biggest.
Yeah, I think we can finally get into what's coming next.
So Europe, I've never heard personally, and I'm sure a lot of people haven't either, about football being anything really in Europe. Is there a hidden gem out there that we don't know about?
A little bit. I mean, there used to be something called NFL Europe, and that was kind of, I think, the basis of what kind of built football in Europe. And now it's no longer called that. Each country there has its own separate league. So there's a football league, and where I was going to go was Finland, but there's one in Germany, there's Spain, there's Austria, there's France, there's all of these different countries have their own individual football leagues. Maybe some are better than others. I know Germany is considered kind of the highest tier. When they were signing players, I was still coming back from my foot injury, so I wasn't able to go on and try to sign with a team because I wouldn't have been ready for the season. But Finland is kind of the latest season, and I ended up finding a great team. They're called the Vasa Royals. Again, it's kind of a shame that I didn't get to go over and do that with them because I was super excited for the season, and I think we were going to be super successful. But yeah, football in Europe it continues to grow, and the CFL is actually doing the CFL 2.0 initiative to kind of partner with them and continue to grow the game, not only in Canada, but in Europe as well. So that it kind of becomes worldwide, kind of like what soccer did way back when, and now it's kind of a worldwide sport.
Were you able to go to Europe and like test out the water? Because I'm just thinking, is there a language barrier as well between people, or is everyone pretty good at speaking English?
I'm sure there's a little bit of a language barrier. Again, I didn't get the opportunity to go over there and actually see for myself, but from the experiences I had talking with like the GM, who's from Finland, spoke really, really good English, and from what he told me is that basically everyone does speak English, and I mean those are really highly educated countries. I mean Finland has one of the best education systems in the world, from what I know. So I don't think it would have been a massive issue. I mean, maybe in other countries there is a little bit of a language barrier, but I think there's ways to overcome that. And they are used to bringing what are called import players over to play on these teams. So they have ways of getting around that.
Yeah, that's so cool to have that opportunity to go there. And obviously, especially you're young, right? You have your degree, and I hate to be the guy who always brings hockey into this for the football interview, but obviously all the hockey players, we have a lot of young OHL players, and we say like, what do you think? Like, what if you don't make the NHL, right? Like, the odds are most people won't. And would you like? Are you looking to go to Europe? And they all say, yeah. Like, that's such a cool experience to be able to go live there. And now you have your degree, you have something to fall back on, obviously. And hopefully you don't have to, but you can take that risk, right? You're at the perfect spot to go try something cool. That's so awesome that you're going over there.
No, definitely. It's an opportunity. As an athlete growing up, you don't have a ton of time to travel and go to places and see the world. And now if you can use sport as a means to kind of get over there and maybe save some money and get to see the world in a different way, while also getting to play the sport you love, that sounds literally like the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons that I chose to do it. I could have hung up the cleats and just, you know what, I'll get on with my life. But like you said, I'm still young enough. I'm starting to get a little bit older, but I'm still young enough to go over there and help the team win a championship while also getting to see a new part of the world.
Perfect. Well, I think that's probably a good way to end it off. I don't know if you have any last minute questions, boys, but appreciate it for you. Like, that's been great. Like, you're an amazing role model. I feel your story is great. Anyone would love to, I'm sure, look at your highlights or anything that we'll link them in the description. And thank you again for coming on. It's been great to talk to you.
Absolutely, guys. Yeah, I'll definitely check out some of the other podcast stuff. And no, it's awesome what you guys are doing. As you mentioned, you guys are all in high school, yeah?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy what you guys are doing already, and the fact that you're able to be comfortable enough to get on these videos and do these with people is something that obviously is going to set you up for the rest of your life. It's awesome. So
we really appreciate that. And
yeah, we hope to see you in the CFL sometime.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let us know when you come to Hamilton.
We'll get you back on.
For sure.
But yeah, thanks again.
Yep.
All right, guys. You guys have a good one.